So as you can see, it is a beach start, and here are our starters. Morgan Pearson, top ranked on that list. Good Mexican representation. There is Gracie, number 4, just behind countryman Rodrigo Gonzalez. Kevin McDowell, another American who's had a good few weeks. 3rd in Tongyong, 4th in Weihai. Junpai Furia, one of the Japanese athletes, 15th in Miyazaki last week. Ran Sagiv has had a good year, the Israeli. 3rd in the under-23 men's race in Lausanne. Ryan Sisson's there from New Zealand. He's a talented athlete. And anybody else, Lisa, that's sort of catching your eyes as we go down these lists?
Well, there's interesting with World Cups is you have quite a spread. You have good athletes coming a bit later on in the start list as well. Thomas Trott is the head of the athletes committee, to mention. Kenny Nenner is a Japanese athlete who trained some with the Norwegian team this year, actually. He was up at altitude in Fonderma with his Canadian coach, Patrick. So he probably are well prepared coming from Japan. The Japanese have been very strong in the last couple of races, so they all seem to have nailed this kind of back end of the season really well.
He used to race for Australia, Kenji Nenner, before changing his nationality to Japan. So 1 or 2 Russians in the field. Igor Polyansky, the younger of the 2 Polyansky brothers there. Jorik van Ekman from the Netherlands, Jeremy Briand from Canada, Bob Haller from Luxembourg. We've seen him a lot on the World Cup season this year, though he's not raced since Tisha Avaros. And lots of South Americans in there. The Brazilian's very prominent, Cal Willie, part of the relay team in the Tokyo test event fairly recently. Diego Schlevin. Gabel Falden from Hungary is a popular name as well. Another Japanese there in Yuka Abe. Florin Savisberg, one of a number of Savisbergs, I think isn't it?
5 brothers. So you've got some good brothers to look up to.
Yeah, a little bit confusing as we continue down this. Matthew Wright from Barbados.
Gaspar Riveros is the brother of Barbara Riveros, who saw racing just an hour ago.
Yeah, be interested to see how he fares today. Jan Voller from the Czech Republic, Taylor Forbes from Canada. A lot of these athletes, of course, from this side of the world, looking to pick up those important points. And a lot of these athletes will be in Santo Domingo next week in the Dominican Republic for the final race of the year. Colombians, Ecuadorians, Costa Ricans. So lots of nations represented here. Tim Helvig from Germany, just slotting in there behind Darin Konosbayev from Kazakhstan. And our final page with Yamil Amush, the Argentinian, wearing the highest number in the field, number 67. There are just 65 men in the field. No number 13, of course, in triathlon. That accounts for one of those places. But the men just getting ready for the introductions. We'll take the opportunity to give you a look at the course. There was a little bit of chop, a little bit of swell around for the women's race a little earlier on. It's a 350 metre out, 50 metre across, and then 350 metre back. Quite a simple swim. It's a beach start. And it was quite congested, and that will be quite congested as well. There's the bike for 5 kilometre laps on the bike. So again, there's a hill involved, which was a bit of a leveler. We saw a crash in the women's race early on. Those 2 180-degree turns, and then a little bit of a tight section as they head back towards the transition zone, just down there at the bottom of that little course map. That's the more technical section on the bike course, which again will just test them out a little over the 20 kilometers. And then the run, it's fast, it's flat. There's some long stretches on that run as well. Again, 2 tight turns before they head back to transition and the finishing shoot in under an hour's time. So we'll see who gets off to a good start. So it is an optional wetsuit swim today. The air temperature has warmed up a little since the women's race earlier on, 20 degrees now. It is quite cloudy and overcast. It does feel a little bit warmer than 20 degrees. Water temperature 18 degrees. So it is an optional wetsuit, as we said. So, you know, everybody seems to have gone with wetsuits. What's the thinking when it's optional?
Optional is that it's, you know, you're allowed to wear wetsuits. It's allowed when it's under 20 degrees, but it's such an advantage to wear wetsuits, so you wouldn't want to race without a wetsuit. You would be quite a lot of seconds slower per 100 meters.
Right.
I would say it makes about 45 seconds per 100 meters with a wetsuit.
Oh, wow.
So the only reason why you wouldn't wear one is that you don't have one.
Right.
And all these athletes would have a wetsuit for sure.
Well, they all seem to have one anyway, so I'm sure there are plenty of places to pick one up if they didn't bring one with them, but it's an integral part of the kit, of course. The only downside is they have to get that wetsuit off, which can be a little bit problematic when they come out of the water.
Well, it always happens. Every once in a while, you get to a race, it's a hot race, it's warm waters and expected to be no wetsuit, and you might not have brought a wetsuit. And then the current changes or something happens, so the water turns cold and it's a wetsuit race. So I've been to a few races where there's been a few athletes being caught out that, you know, they thought it was going to be warmer and they didn't bring a wetsuit. Normally you find an age group or someone around the race who could lend you a wetsuit.
We've talked a lot about the equipment these days, and particularly the running shoes that a lot of these athletes wear. Has the wetsuit evolved in that kind of scientific way as well over the years?
Yeah, definitely. The wetsuit is ever evolving. There's always new things happening, but there's also quite a, you know, there's rules and regulations you have to follow as a wetsuit manufacturer. There was a time when you wanted to have little like catches on the underarms, so you would catch the water better. And then they start to measure that, you know, you can't have anything that's more than 5 millimeter deep outside the wetsuit material. And there'd be like small little things to make it once, you know, so you can take it off quicker, like little perks that makes it easier to take off, or that would make you, you know, hold your core better or make you float better. You can have variation of thickness of the suit, so you would have patches where it's thicker, and then you want to have, you know, really, really thin suit around your shoulders so you can move better. And you have to find the wetsuit that, you know, suits your body type best and your kind of swimmability the best.
Of course, well, you can see almost every wetsuit there is different. It's a bit like going to the airport and seeing the suitcases come off the belt. Everyone's different. Always amazes me.
You better pick the right one.
Well, we're just coming towards the end of our field here that they've introduced to the crowd. Darren Connersbayev just going through. Tim Helvig from Germany, number 54. It's Peter Denton here, the Belgian, wearing number 56, 250th on the ITU rankings. So it is a big race with just 2 races to go to get some Olympic points. And as you mentioned, every nation is different in terms of the way that they select their athletes.
I think it's a full-time job nowadays to keep up to date with the Olympic selection and different policies. And I know the Americans, they want, what they want to achieve now with these last couple of races is to get 3 guys ranked in the top 30, which would mean 3 places at the Olympic Games in Tokyo. So they have a different setup here today from what we saw in the races in Japan and Tongyeong, where they had different athletes. So they're obviously trying to get 3 athletes to get within that top 30.
Well, they've got 3 at the moment because Morgan Pearson is here, ITU 27th. 2 athletes ahead of him in the top 30 at the moment.
But because the ranking is ever moving,
yeah.
People move up. So even though you might be within the ranking, you have to keep on racing to also block points from other countries to get points.
So I think we're just about ready. All the athletes have been introduced. 65 about to head off into the Pacific for 1 lap of 750 meters. And there's going to be a big group at some point, you can imagine, going around those swim boys. We'll see who can get themselves out in front. See who the strongest swimmers are. And this will be a very fast race, you can be assured of that. So 750 meter swim, 20-kilometer bike, and a 5-kilometer run to decide the latest World Cup gold medal. So the hoot are going fairly quickly, and off they go, racing into the water. They have to run in the water. It's quite shallow for the first few meters or so before they can actually get into a swim stride. Did you see the butterfly stroke being employed before they can get out into the water?
It's so much faster. You do a couple of like dolphin dives, you push off from your feet, you do the butterfly kind of arm movement, and you also save a bit of, like, it's faster, and you save your heart rate a little bit as well compared to starting swimming.
Well, we saw that in Miyazaki last week, didn't we? Towards the end of the lap, they were actually touching the bottom of the water, and they were doing those dolphin dives towards the end of each lap. But now we're into a little bit of rhythm here.
Wow, it spread out really quickly.
It didn't take too long, did it? Unfortunately, we don't have any drone footage, so you don't get that appreciation from above of how these groups have actually split in the opening stages, but you can see already that just to the head of an arrow almost.
And it's a big field today. It's great to see so many athletes racing all the way into November. 67 athletes, or 66 taking away the number 13. That's a lot of guys on quite a small swim course. So I think they're going to be having to make sure they get out really quickly to get around that buoy in a good position. This is the most important 350 meters of the race today.
Yes, obviously getting yourself that little bit of distance before they make the 90-degree right turn.
Number 21.
Carlos Xavier Quinchera Ferrero from Colombia seems to be the man out in front at the moment. Reasonable crowd gathered on the beach here.
I think the surf is picking up a little bit compared to the women's race earlier today. It's a few waves when they, especially getting back into the beach again. And we saw the two girls that led out of the swim, they also caught a wave, so if the guys are skilled and with a bit of luck, they might be able to get a few seconds in at the very end of the swim as well.
That's Morgan Pearson nearest the camera, number one, the top-ranked athlete in the field, the American. He's had a couple of good races this year, second in Hutalco, seventh in Mooloolaba. Won the Montreal Sprint American Cup right at the start of the year. Sixth place in Edmonton as well in the WTS series, which has helped his rankings. Of course, more ranking points available for WTS events. But if you race a lot on the World Cup circuit, you can pick up vital points. This is race 16 of 17 this season.
It's a slightly different dynamic in a World Cup race. When you lose a few of the really big names, the big players, and it opens up for, you know, maybe someone who has a really strong swim and bike leg, or like we saw with a very strong run. So they feel like you can make a bigger indent if you might be missing the swim a little bit, but you have opportunity to make it up in a World Cup race. In a WTS race, it's more difficult and suits sometimes a different kind of athlete to a World Cup racer. And of course, these guys have also looked at the circuit, looked what suits them in terms of like the race plan. Where is the race held? What kind of time zone? How much travel they need to do? Does it suit with my altitude camps, and however I want to spread out the races over the season? And also, does the course suit me? Does the course play into my strength and do me favors? It's number 40.
Yeah, there's definitely a 4 involved.
Salzburg, younger brother of the 5 Salzburg brothers, who all are very good swimmers, so it would definitely not surprise me if it's Salzburg sits there in the top 3.
So here they come around that second buoy. They'll start off on the 350-meter lap back towards the beach. Reminder, those Pan Am Games, Crisanto Gralias from Mexico was the winner. Manolo Messias from Brazil took the silver, and Luciano Taccone from Argentina the bronze. That was over the Olympic distance, though, here back in July. I'm sure a lot of these athletes, now that they're in this part of the world, will race in Santo Domingo next week before they start to plan their 2020 schedules.
It's a good combo of these two races. Looking at the map, it looks fairly close, but comparing the distances to Europe, it's still quite a significant jump to make, to go from Lima to Dominican Republic. At least it's in the same time zone, and yeah, I guess the travel will be fairly easy. A good place to end the season as well, wouldn't it? Dominican Republic.
It's not bad in November, that's for sure. It is springtime here in South America, hence the lower temperatures, really. So 20 degree the air temperature, 18 degrees the water temperature, hence the optional wetsuit swim.
It's pretty perfect racing conditions for these boys. It's not too hot when it gets hot like in Japan or South Korea like earlier. It's more challenging, and it's demands more pacing and hydration. Today, for a sprint race, it's perfect. Now they're getting into the waiver zone here. You can see they're moving up and down quite a bit in the water. Hopefully no one gets seasick during the last 200 meters. I know a few Ironmans where the athletes have been pulled from the swim because of seasickness.
It is a little bit choppy. It's not quite Malulaba where they surf onto the beach, one of the early races in the year.
I've been to Malulaba a couple of times where they had to cancel or move the swim into the marina, where they thought it was too dangerous to let poor Europeans out in the Australian surf.
Well, it's a big group that are heading back towards the shore. There's not too much to choose between them at the moment. I think they swim about 700 meters maybe, another 50 meters or so to go before they hit the shore.
But if they're lucky here, they can get a few meters for free. Getting one of these waves, the push you get from it and the speed you get is so much quicker than just regular swimming. So we saw in the girls' race, they actually, gained 4 or 5 meters from catching one of the last waves into the beach. But you need a bit of timing and a bit of luck for it to kind of go all the way. And it's a bit of an art as well. It's quite difficult. You need to be used to it.
Yeah, it just shows the different conditions.
Just missed it, just missed it. He could have had the swim of his life.
That was nearly the surfing in we were talking about.
One more wave, see if anyone gets on it. Because this is where the guys in the further back, they could actually make up a lot of time if they get on it. Here we go. Nice.
Well, there's a whole bunch in that surf that has just come in.
I've just evened out the swim quite a bit, actually.
Well, you can see that the advantage that those guys that came in on that wave have just gained. Difficult to find the run legs as well after the swim, but they're onto the beach and off to T1. And I think we're going to see a large group out on the bike. There's not too much to choose between our first 20 or maybe 25 out of the water.
There's a distinct gap here from the first and second group. I'd say that's where the split is going to happen. And here's another gap. You can see it quite obvious on the beach.
Yeah, it is a big field, as we've said.
But then a lot of time can be made up during the swim from the water's edge up to the bike. So if you're a great runner, you still have a bit of air left in the system. You can make up a lot of time and maybe even move up to the group ahead of you.
So it was the man from Luxembourg, Bob Haller, that led them into transition, and he looks like the man who'll lead them out as well on the bike.
Great transition too. There's Isifurua from Japan.
So he hasn't raced since Tishu Avaros when he was 23rd, Bob Haller.
Salvisberg just going out on the bike. Brian Sissons in a good position too. There's Petsov closer to the camera. Holaus from Austria, great biker. So now there's no distinct groups anymore, it's just a long string of guys.
So
interesting to see how quick they will push the pace on the bike, if anyone is ready to commit, or if it's going to be a slight hesitation and then the whole field is probably going to come back together.
Well, there's our last athlete onto the bike, one of the Argentinians. So all 65 men have made it out of the water. So 20 kilometers, 4 laps of 5 kilometers. So there is a hill climb in the early part of the race. Here's the swim exit. So Bob Haller was the man who led them into transition. He was one of the ones who actually caught that wave, I think, which helped him get a little bit of an advantage. Well-rehearsed routine of getting out of the wetsuit while running.
Well, they practice this in training. Every time you have an ocean swim, you probably finish with having, one hard swim to the beach, and then you take off your wetsuit as quick as you can.
So there'll be a big group in our lead group.
Here's a recap from the swimming. Nice and tight. Morgan Pearson just in the middle of the camera here, holding an outside line in the pack. Some athletes prefer to do that, to have more free space than not being locked in the middle of a big bunch, where also, you know, easy to lose your rhythm, or you have someone who touches you or kind of comes a bit too close to you.
We're just having a bit of picture breakup on our bike cams at the moment, which is why we're just showing you a little bit of a replay on the swim. Hopefully we'll be back live with the bike in just a moment, but they're into the first lap of 4.
How dramatic is that coastline? The city is like sitting a bit higher than the actual water.
There's quite a steep drop from those tower blocks down to the beach. Here we are back live again.
And this is the hill on the course. A U-turn. You go up the hill, you do a U-turn, and then you come back down again.
So you can see lots of athletes already reached that turn and are on the downhill section. And it's quite a long stretch now, long straight stretch all the way back to the far end of the course, where they'll do another 180, and then it's a tight technical section just as they come back towards transition once again. So you can see that's it's quite a steep climb. It's not the longest climb in the world, but it'll just take the energy out of the legs. They do that 4 times. They've done it once already.
It's definitely enough to get a burn on the legs, I think. If you're one of the stronger ones, you can hurt your competitors going up that hill. Also saw a few athletes struggling with gear choices, and you want to keep that nice rhythm and the legs turning over without getting stuck in a too big gear, or drop the chain like we saw a couple of the girls do going up that hill.
Yeah, we also saw a bit of a crash in the women's race as well. Everybody, though, managed to get back on and get back into the race. Nobody picking up any serious injuries, which is all good to know.
But it looks like the pace is set fairly high here. We don't see a big group yet. We see a lot of smaller groups and athletes chasing, trying to get on the group. I wonder if we have the leaders around the corner here. So they did a good job at the start of the bike here.
We'll see if we can see how many we've got in that group. Well, in fact, that's a chase group. There's the leaders. You can see a much bigger group up front. The bike just trying to find its way through at the moment, making sure they don't provide a slipstream. There's quite wide roads here.
And here's a U-turn at the far end of the course, right?
Yep, so now they turn and head back towards transition.
See if the motorcycle can negotiate the U-turn. Yeah, this is quite a large group here. See who's driving the pace.
That's one of the Irish athletes in the green. Sometimes just a little bit difficult to identify the numbers. Well, that's Marco van der Stel from the Netherlands, number 26. And there's our number 1 ranked athlete, the American Morgan Pearson, out in front at the moment as well. So he's got himself nicely placed. It's Russell White, the Irishman, that's in that lead group.
Cameraman is having some troubles.
Yeah, just a bit of freezing on our moto cameras at the moment. Hopefully we'll have those back in just a moment or two.
So we have a style study of Morgan Pearson here. Behind is it Zacchaeus, and in front, I think, the Luxembourg athlete.
Yeah, Bob Haller, who led them out to the water. Rode that surf nicely into the beach.
Someone is having a tough day at work today, the guy with the camera. I'm not going to be happy. You had one job.
I think we're working on it at the moment, I think. But we know that it is a big group that's out in front, and if they can all take turns at the front of that group, then it could set things up nicely for the run.
Well, they want to make sure that none of the runners that missed the pack is going to catch up. So obviously they don't want to be more guys in this group than what they already are. You never want the group to be bigger because it means a more difficult job once you hit the run. And I don't think anyone is confident enough not to be willing to that group to stay away. If you're strong on the bike and you know you can hold your run after a hard bike, you also want to make the bike as hard as possible for the other guys in the group. If you're one runner that you don't want to, you know that you're hurting if you have to work too hard, then the tactics is to stay out of trouble, stay out of wind, and trying to make it as easy as possible as you can during the bike. That's what we heard Julia saying, right? Julia Stratova before. She didn't want to get in trouble, but she wanted to save her legs for the run. So there's no point of being a hero on the bike, but if you want to push the pace, then and you can still hold your run, then this is a brilliant opportunity for it.
Yeah, apologies once again for the technical difficulties we've got with our picture at the moment. We'll just take a look at some of the beauty shots again of this stretch of coastline. So we are in the Peruvian capital, Lima. So the host to the Pan American Games just a few months or so ago. The triathlon, of course, very much part of the Pan Am Games. So it is quite dramatic with those buildings on the top of that cliff.
They could have made the bike really, really difficult, I think.
Yeah.
Going up and down. You can get some meters of climbing to the bike course.
Very high rise as well.
Be fantastic for the city to have a beach, that kind of beautiful beach that close to the city center.
Yeah. Fantastic views from those apartment blocks as well, or office blocks, whichever they are, just on the right-hand side of the picture. We've got the paragliders up as well.
So what's the main food of Peru? Do you know
Having not been, I'm not 100% sure. Certainly looks at.
I know Barbara Rivera's, obviously she's from Chile, but she did a lot of like empanadas or little pierogies. So maybe they have some good ones in special Peruvian pierogies as well. If any athletes are there racing, maybe they can give me a shout out and tell me what's good to eat in Peru.
And here's just a look at our swim start again, just while we're trying to get those technical issues with the cameras sorted out for you to bring you the live coverage back.
So I always hated this kind of moment during races before the start, and you have to go through all these procedures and the lineups and calling out the numbers and waiting for everyone to run out on the pontoon before you can start.
So I just had a quick look while we have a bit of a break. Lima's actually known as the gastronomical capital of the Americas.
Oh, you see.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Creole food apparently is quite popular. Chifas, whatever chifas is. Cevicherías and pollerías.
That wasn't very useful for me.
I'm just so furthering this lesson in Peruvian culture. Chifa is based on Chinese Cantonese elements fused with Peruvian ingredients.
Oh wow!
So there you go. Chinese immigrants came to Peru mainly from the southern province of Guangdong back in the 19th and the 20th century. So we can give you a little bit of a gastronomical lesson.
The athletes are in for a treat during this day. That's one of the things I loved about racing and traveling is you get to see different countries, different cultures. Maybe before the race you play it a bit safe and you stick to, well-known foods that your stomach can handle. But after the race, you always have 1 or 2 days where you can enjoy the local cuisines and foods and check out the city and the sights.
Now, pollerías is a blackened chicken or rotisserie chicken. Or a charcoal chicken in Australia.
So. Getting a bit hungry is listening to you.
It does make you feel quite hungry. I'm sure a lot of these athletes will be seeking out some Peruvian cuisine after the race. So unfortunately, we still haven't managed just to get our coverage sorted out at the moment, but we're working on it, be rest assured.
Yes, okay, I go. Go. Oh, we wait there, okay. Wait there.
So it looks like we've got a little bit of a group out in front on the bike. Russell White is still involved with them at the moment. We're just getting some photos from the course. So again, apologies for the technical difficulties that we're just experiencing at the moment. We have been using quite a lot of new technology to bring some of these races to you this year. Obviously, occasionally it can be a little bit problematic depending on weather conditions and cloud cover, etc. And it's not helped by the fact that we're not getting a huge amount of live timing off site at the moment either. So we're as much in the dark as you are. So hopefully we'll be back before they get out on the race. They're certainly well into lap 2 of the 4 laps on the bike as we speak.
Here we go. I wonder if this is live or if it's a recap.
Still
this is
a recap. This is a recap of the early part of the bike,
yeah.
That we just saw before we lost the signal. So Bob Haller was definitely within that front group when we were with it before. Morgan Pearson was in there as well. Ryan Sissons and Duchamp.
Ryan Sissons is a great runner, so this could be a perfect setup for him for the run.
Yeah, he was a regular on the podiums back in 2017, Ryan Sissons, wasn't he? He's finally getting back to sort of fitness and getting his race legs back together again.
He was here in Stockholm training, I think it was 2 years ago, and was in great shape, but unfortunately, like a lot of athletes, ended up with a stress fracture at a bad timing of the season. And that's something that happens to a lot of athletes. You train well, you're getting back into fitness, you're getting ready to race, and then something that you didn't expect or didn't want comes around the corner in terms of an overuse injury. And to keep healthy, to keep strong during a long period of time, as talking over many years, it's super impressive. And there's only a few athletes, like Andrew Hewitt and maybe Javier Gomez, if you included that, really managed to stay on top of the game and never really miss anything big. They were always there, always near the front.
Yeah, injuries in any sport, of course, can just cause a little bit of an issue. That's just to take a moment to remind you about the 2020 calendar, which we'll be launching into in February of next year. First World Cup race will be the middle of February in Cape Town. Then it's on to Mooloolaba, Sarasota, Bradenton in the USA, New Plymouth in New Zealand. Now we are back live. We managed to get our cameras sorted out. That's Helvig from Germany, just in there. I think that might be Kevin McDowell at the front as well, the USA athlete. Had a good few weeks, 3rd in Tongyong, 4th in Weihai.
And the group is definitely bigger now than when we saw them the last time. So the group has come together with a chase group. Maybe even 2 chase groups.
Well, that is a huge group. That is probably 80% of the field are in that group at the moment. And we'll be able to tell you what lap they're on when they come back through transition again. I'm guessing this is coming towards the end of the 2nd lap.
It's definitely not lap 1.
No, it's definitely not lap 1. There we go. They will hold the board up for the athletes when they go through the transition zone, just so they're aware. If you hear a bell, then you know that they're onto the last lap. So, but let's see who can maybe make a little bit of a break out of this group and get themselves an advantage. Otherwise, we're just going to come down to a 5-kilometre run to decide the destination of the medals. Mention the World Cup races. The WTS races kick off in March in Abu Dhabi, Bermuda, Yokohama, Leeds, Montreal, Hamburg, Edmonton, where the grand final will be this year. And then there are a couple of extra mixed relay events, most notably Chengdu, which will be the Olympic qualifying event. So even though it's a relay, the countries will gain points.
Someone has mechanical problems here.
To get an Olympic position.
Something happened. Maybe a puncture, maybe jammed gears.
Yeah, certainly someone at the back didn't quite catch the number, but well, that is a huge group. I don't think our bike will be able to get past that, to be honest with you. It's quite narrow on this this part of the course.
But if you are a triathlete and you love to travel the world, you could probably join the World Cup circuit, right?
Absolutely.
It seems like it's a good spread. Here's Tomas is he losing contact with the group?
Yeah, Tamas Todt just dropping off. That's very tight, that section there. But everybody getting through unscathed.
Yeah, these U-turns are killing the legs. All the accelerations from, you go down to pretty much no speed and then you have to accelerate back up with that rubber band effect that the pack creates.
I think this must be the third lap because that climb is quite early into the lap. There's the chase group coming through.
Yeah, it's a nice distance. They're not going to catch now unless the pace is really, the boys are sitting up, and I think that's Tomas who probably just played a bit tactical and didn't push his legs too much towards the end of the climb. It's quite easy to, you know, descend, you go down deep and arrow and you descend quickly, and with the draft of the athletes just ahead of you, it's, you know, you're there in no time.
I think there are probably a couple of Japanese in this group. There was certainly a couple of Japanese higher to the water, Kenji Nena and Jumpai Furia. Peter Dentonier from Belgium, who led the swim for a little while.
We probably have Jorik van Egdom in there as well. One of the faster runners in the sport. Be interesting to see what kind of shape he is in.
There's Jan Villar from the Czech Republic in the red.
Oh, he's going for a break. Someone's not happy to sit in the pack, but wants to create a bit of a gap before the run starts.
I think that's Bob Haller that's gone with him.
And in a sprint race, if you get 20-30 seconds, that can make for a really nice little head start on the run. You don't want anything less than 30 seconds, but if you can create a gap, you put your head down, you work really hard, you get 30 seconds, and 30 seconds over 5K, that's significant.
That's Stefan Zackhaus, another of the Luxembourg athletes that's gone with Jan Villar.
And when the group is as big as the main group is now, it's difficult to get, you know, that group to work together. Someone has to take responsibility, someone has to, you know, not being willing to let these two guys go.
Well, there's certainly a big group that can work together now to try and reduce that deficit.
But with such a big group, they're not going to work together. It's going to be dependent on, you know, 4 or 5 athletes not to be willing to let that gap go. But if they say, like, well, these two boys are not great runners, we can run them down anyways, then there's no really point. And that's when the gap can grow and be significant. But you see the pace is on now, so they are probably chasing. Now it's more of a spread out big group, not being so bunched together as they were just before.
A quick look over the shoulder from Stefan Zackhaus. Best result this year was 7th in Antwerp. You can see they've got
Company.
Someone for company. One athlete just breaking away from the pack to make it a 3 up front, and now they might be able to,
this could be dangerous.
to work together.
Now there's another one, the 4th one, who wants to go. But if too many are deciding they want to join in, then it's also dangerous because they're not going to get away. Too many are going to kind of cover that gap, and they're not going to be able to break it up. And they quickly want to make a difference. They don't want to keep on riding at the front for, you know, most of the race to then end up with 5 seconds when they get to T2.
So Jan Villar taking a turn at the front.
Oh no, they're not gonna... The pack is too keen to cover this, so now it's pretty much back together again. It was a good try.
Yeah, they tried.
So now is the time to go again. If anyone in that pack is hungry for it, you go again, and this time you might be able to get away.
Well, Bob Haller has joined his fellow countryman Stefan Zackhaus in that group now. So this is where they head down into the transition zone once again.
And this is probably starting the last lap, I would say, not the 3rd lap, but the 4th lap. You get the timing.
So And that was the list when they came out to the water. Bob Hallett, Kenji Nena, Morgan Pearson, the #1 ranked athlete in the field. So Junpai Furia making it another Japanese athlete in that group. But all these athletes are in that lead group. Igor Polyansky, he's tucked in as well. Stefan Zakas, we saw him leading the bike a few moments or so ago. Tim Helvig in those distinctive German colours.
So if this was a bike race only and they didn't have to worry about the run, they would keep attacking here. There'd be like attacks going from right and left, trying to create that gap. The problem when you have the run after is that you have to look after your legs, and you always have to measure and weigh against, if I put in this work, will I get back some benefit or will I burn myself? Yes, another one having a go. And another one, awesome. So they are counter-attacking. I like this. I like this aggressive riding. It's Israeli, no, it's a Japanese.
There's Abe from Japan.
There's two more chasing and then the chase group.
Yuka Abe. Fourth in Takamatsu in the Asian Cup. Raced a little earlier on this year, fifth in Gamagori, so a reasonably good season on the Asian Cup circuit for him. He's still only 148th on the ITU rankings. There'll be a lot of good runners in there.
That's quite a clever timing with the attack, because he attacked just on the last bit before heading into that corner leading into the hill. So he now has a little bit of time to establish a gap going up the hill. On the flat, if you're on the flat road, big wide open roads, maybe slightly into headwind, it's very, very difficult to attack and make a difference and actually get away. Oh no, it's not going to happen here either.
No, nobody's been able to get away. We saw a three-man break on the last lap.
Everyone is keen to start the run in front. No one wants to give away in the 3 seconds here, which is really understandable too.
This is the fastest part of the course, the downhill bit.
So they have one more long straight road into a U-turn, and then they make their way back into T2 and the last transition of the day. So the pace have not dropped, and you see a lot of athletes are taking the opportunity to have a drink and hydrate a little bit, get their legs and head ready for the run. And here we go, three have gone again now. They're very aggressive today, aren't they?
Yeah, there's certainly little groups that they've not really managed to get any great distance between themselves, but in a run, every little helps if you can have a fast transition in T2.
Yeah, at least even if you don't have a massive gap, you have a clear path into your running shoes. You don't have to trip over someone or fight for position getting into transition.
Well, it'll be a big group going into transition.
It's Colucci at the front. Strong, very strong biker.
Yeah, Ronaldo Colucci, there's another Brazilian in that group as well.
So they've 3 or 4 here. And then now they're actually getting a bit of a gap, I think. Have the group finally let them go. So what's happening too with the mentality in a group, at the start there's a lot of athletes who's willing to do the job to cover a small breakaway, because obviously it's harder to be at the front and it's harder to be the one who has to try to bridge over or bridge the gap. If there's a couple of breaks, so after 3, 4, you look around, it's like, okay, does anyone else want to do this job? And if no one is prepared to do it, or everyone is getting a bit tired of like covering breaks, that's when it snaps open and you get a gap.
That's Diego Schlevin, the other Brazilian.
So this is what's happened
3.
now. They're getting a bit of a distance to the main group.
And they've built up that gap over quite a short space of time. I saw Yuka Abe from Japan is the other athlete in that 3. So now they'll start to get ready for the run.
So if you are one of the better runners, you can pretty safely give away maybe 20-30 seconds. Much more than that you don't want to give away in a sprint race. They have a good draft to sit behind Colucci here as well. It's always frustrating if you sit behind a really small rider because you don't get much of a benefit. Oh, they can't get past him.
Well, those three have worked really hard to give themselves a little bit of an advantage to head out onto the run. Will it be enough, I wonder, to really threaten one final push?
Be interesting to see how many seconds they managed to build up. So it's really only from the last U-turn and back into transition. And this is also kind of like a dangerous situation with a big pack. Everyone is looking down, taking the shoes, the feet out of the shoes, and it's quite common small crashes happens towards the later stages of the bike. So it's also a smart move because they don't have to worry about other athletes, they don't have to worry about the congestion in transition area.
Well, they're coming towards transition now. The shoes are off. They'll be ready to head out onto the run in just a moment. The last few turns before they head back onto that blue carpet. Just the other side of that little grandstand, and there's that big group behind them. Maybe 10 or 15 seconds back, not even that possibly. Ran Sagiv there from Israel, just at the back in the black.
But the athletes at the back here, compared to the first athletes going in, they have lost quite a significant amount of time.
Someone just lost a shoe there as they went into transition.
So it's even numbers on one side and odds on the other. So you have to remember what side you racked your bike on and find your number and find the right place where your shoes are.
So there were 40 plus, we think, in that group, minus the 3 that already went out. Tamás Tóth, the Hungarian, just at the back there, chasing down Ran Sagiv. Peter Denton here from Belgium, who took a turn in, leading in the water.
Here we go, Colucci and
It was Colucci, Abe and Schlebin that were in that 3.
Yep.
Is Abe still there? You get Abe?
So they might not hold off the fastest runners, but they might hold off a great deal of guys from behind that they would be right in the mix with if they would have sat back in the pack. So I wonder what the distance is now to the chasers coming out.
So they've already reached the furthest part of the run course, 2.5 kilometer laps.
It's Messias.
And Messias, the silver medal winner in the Pan Am Games over the Olympic distance.
And here's it's tight. That poor cone. It's being run over.
Yeah, there are some fast runners in there. I'm sure Ryan's sisters will be in there.
It's Peru. Jumpy. It's a wise move to go with the breakaway. There's Colucci. And I wonder if Messiah had a bad transition and bridging up, or if he didn't have the running legs of today. Didn't Jumpy have a good run in Japan last week? He was up towards...
He did, he was leading. He was in that lead group for a while. I think he fell away late on. So he ended up finishing in 15th spot, so he didn't manage to maintain his position, but another chance for him to put some pressure on here.
Here's Messiah coming through. So he probably did have a little bit slower of a transition, but now finding his running legs, and probably also knowing the pack is not that far back, so they will have to keep the pace high, because there's some pretty swift runners coming from this main group. And they're soon getting up the heels of Colucci, and they see Messiah not that far up the road. You think he feels like he's got a target on his back?
He certainly does at the moment, Messias.
You feel that big red dot and the eyes in the neck.
He was part of not only his silver medal, he got the gold medal in the mixed relay team as well. Brazil taking that in Lima, or in the Pan Am Games here, rather. Took the bronze medal in the Huatulco World Cup. Ransagi's put himself into a good position. Tim Helvig from Germany.
Trying Sissons, just on the back of Holaus. Is it Paris who's...
And Stefan Zakhaus, who led on the bike for a while.
Zagiv behind him. So for 5Ks, there's no holding back. There's no, pacing, or I need to make sure that I can last, the last 2Ks. It's all out from the start. When the bell rings, it means you should increase the pace if you have anything left in the tank.
So Manuel Messias, the Brazilian, leads the way.
But he's just about to be eaten up by the chasers coming from behind, and they're moving pretty swift here. Is it Pearson coming up?
Well, he said he had a target on his back, and that target has just been eaten into. So around the furthest part of the course at the other end, back towards transition. And then it'll be the bell lap to find out where our medals are going. But this could be, well, this will be anybody's race at the moment.
Anyone who's in that front group of the runners.
It's amazing how they get so spread out on the run so quickly, having ridden together some 40 of them. And once they're out onto the run, it's such a leveler.
Two Americans, right, at the front?
Yeah, it looks like. Is that Petsov from Azerbaijan?
Yeah.
In there? It's Kevin McDowell, number 5, nearest the camera. Pearson just ahead of him.
Well, now he's hanging to the back. Behind Messiah. Messiah is still in there. That's a good job from him. Got a head start and now slotting into the group. Saving, slotting in behind someone, saving a little bit of energy. And this is the Cramps racing for the ITU, changing nationality, right?
He is changing nationality.
And is one Mexican too? Is it? Ryan Sissons, Gawisagiv and Jason West in the group just behind the leaders. Ala is leading the chase.
So they're out onto the final lap. Lucas Holaus from Austria there in the red and white, just at the head of that little group. There's Ransagiv in the black with a white stripe down the side. Ryan Sissons all in black for New Zealand.
as the leaders.
Pearson out in front, McDowell with the white cap on.
It's a Salzburg. It's Salzburg. Great race for him. Messiah is now moving. Oh, he's trying to get some drinks.
Yeah, so 6 in that lead group then. Running well together at the moment. Rest aren't too far behind them though.
The Americans, the two of them look pretty strong. And Felix is moving up at the back of them, which probably is quite wise at the moment here. You don't want to be too far back either at these U-turns. Costs you a lot of energy. You know, Petsa was falling off the back of this group, so they 5 of them left in the front.
Kevin McDowell managed to hang on in Tongyong for 3rd place a few weeks ago, just holding off the challenge of Max Studer and Eli Hemming. Just off the podiums in Weihai and Madrid, 3rd in Cagliari as well, so he's had a pretty good season, Kevin McDowell. Can he top it with a win here? So Pearson is the top-ranked athlete in the field this week. The 2 Americans running side by side. Savizberg from Austria up there with them as well. But these guys are well into the final lap now. You can hear the bell still going in the background as the stragglers come through transition. Now Pearson's looking strong, McDowell's looking strong, Messiah's just tucked in behind.
So Messiah is the one who had the opportunity to open the slowest out of these boys. All the other boys had to run a little bit quicker to catch him. So he actually got a bit of an advantage because he could drop back a little bit when they caught up to him. But he also worked a little bit hard on the bike towards the later stages of the bike to create that gap and distance that they had when they reached T2. The other boys have been sitting in the group towards the later stages of the bike and just rest the legs a little bit more. So if you don't find yourself being a great sprinter, this is probably the time to start to feel their opponents and trying to squeeze the pace a little bit.
You mentioned that Felix Deschamps there, just at the back of that little group, changing nationality. Represented France till 2018, in the process of changing to Romanian. But he's in that lead 5 at the moment, and you can see they've built up a big gap now. Good effort from these.
Wow, that's a huge gap.
And you can hear there are still people taking the bell. These guys won't be long before they finish the race, the way it's going. So McDowell and Savizberg, Pearson just into 3rd, but maybe just conserving a little bit of energy for the final push.
Salzburg was 15th at the Funchal ETU Sprint Triathlon European Cup final not that long ago.
Yeah, Ryan, you roll in the style, okay?
Who do you think has the better sprint of these boys?
Well, I think McDowell's probably looking the strongest at the moment, but Pearson, you know, where do they go, the Americans? You said they want 3 in the top 30. This would be a great move. So Pearson started in 27th in the ITU rankings, McDowell in 41st. A win for McDowell would lift him towards that top 30 as well. So it's a nice position to be in, but I'm sure they'll both want to come out on top.
Well, you always want to beat your ranking into the race. That's one of the ground rules in triathlon. So if you're ranked number 1, you probably want at least equal
yeah,
that number.
You want to finish at top.
Yep. think the Cramps is the one who looks like he's just struggling a little bit, being the first one to drop off the pace here. But this is a bit of, even if you're hurting, like we heard early in the women's race with Julia Jelistratova, you can hurt, you can be in a bad patch. If you can hang on, you can actually find your legs for the sprint and surprise yourself.
Well, I'll turn in just a moment towards that finishing chute and the finishing tape. Who's it going to be? 5 in the group, Deschamps comes through. That's a brave move from the ITU athlete.
It's a nice increase of pace too.
Did win his last race at the end of September, the Aquaba Asian Cup, so he comes here with a bit of a winning mentality. He's also winning Agadir this year on the African circuit, but straight away Savisberg and McDowell again kick into top gear, and this is anybody's race between these 5. Now the pace goes up. Here's Messias. Well, the silver medal winner from the Pan Am Games just a few months ago now hits the front, and it's a great turn of pace as well.
Beautiful acceleration. That's like schoolbook running right there.
Has he timed it right? That's the question.
Or is it too early? I think he timed it superbly.
Well, here he goes. Manuel Messias down the finishing chute, and he's not going to be caught. And it's a perfectly executed run from the Brazilian. Savisberg and Deschamps coming through. So it's Messias who's going to take the gold. Savisberg gets silver, and Deschamps takes bronze. And the 2 Americans have run off the podium. McDowell not for the first time this season. Pearson comes through in 5th. And finally that breakaway happened right at the very end of the race. Perfectly executed by the Brazilian.
That was quite different from what we both expected, I think. Felix looked like he was hurting there for a little bit, and then suddenly came that, first acceleration, and Messiah looked like, once he was swallowed up by the pack, it's going to be difficult to make any big differences. As Peru is crossing the finish line, Tomasz just behind him, Zacharias, Jason West. Tight race. It's like, a few seconds between each athlete here. Gonzalez coming through from Mexico.
There was a large group trying to chase them down. There were 40 plus, don't forget, that came off the bike. Not too much of a gap back to those athletes crossing the line now.
It's a big bunch of them now. Colucci coming through. He was in that breakaway together with Messias. Kenny from Japan.
Well, if you're looking for Tess Fourier, who had his turn at the front for a while, well down the field in the end. Bob Haller, who also took a turn at the front on the bike. Russell White was in that lead group as well. And De Stel from the Netherlands.
How exciting was that race? That last K on the run.
Yeah, quite incredible. And Messias timing it absolutely to perfection once he went.
Sorry, once he squeezed the afterburners, there was no coming back.
Danilo Pimentel from Brazil, Moya from Colombia. A lot of the athletes have crossed the line. There were still some groups. You could hear the bell ringing in the background when the leaders were well into the final lap. But an excellent run.
Audio on 2. Audio is now switched on 2. Let me know in the studio. Please let me know. Camera 1 interviews. Audio is on channel 2.
So still they'll come across the line now till we get finished. Well, the man who won the silver medal here at the Pan Am Games goes one better in Lima.
So he likes the course.
He certainly does like the course.
Check 1 2. Check 1
He
2.
probably is going to come back next year if there's another race.
Check 1 2.
It's Abe from Japan coming through the finish chute.
Check 1 2 1 2. Check.
Yeah, another athlete that was doing well after the swim and the bike.
Come on. Check.
It just shows how hard this style of racing is. If not having, the best of days, the distances are quite large. Like straight away on the run, like you said, you start running and the whole field is spread out over, almost like half the course.
Well, still, they cross the line. We'll hear from our top 3 in just a moment. In fact, I think we can go down to the finish line now, and let's hear from our winner, the Brazilian Manuel Messias, who took the gold medal, one better than his performance in the Pan Am Games.
World Cup, site of your second in Pan American Games. Talk us through.
I'm very happy. Today is very good. So, don't know, I'm very happy. Umas palavras em português agora sobre a corrida. A corrida foi bem dura, pilotão bem compacto, ali o pessoal estava andando bem forte. Parte da corrida acabou definindo, eu consegui me poupar o máximo que deu ali na bike e fazer uma boa corrida e estou bem feliz com a vitória. Foi no sprint final aqui, um dos meus pontos mais fortes e estou bem contente.
And now one more race in Santo Domingo next weekend and even more opportunity to finish the season on a high.
Yeah. Próxima competição de Santo Domingo, espero que eu consiga fazer o mesmo que eu fiz aqui.
Parabéns.
Obrigado.
So there was the moment that Messiah's kicked, and no one could kick with him. And he broke away from that four, leaving them very much in his weight to cross the line in first place. Excellently run. And top of the podium finish for him. So let's go and get a word with second place. It was the Austrian Florin Savisberg, who was fifth in Antwerp, finishing second place here in Lima.
Florin, silver here in Lima. A tough race out there. It's getting hot.
Yeah, it was really tough, but I loved it. It's awesome here at the beach. It's amazing.
And a great way to close out the season. It's been up and down for you overall.
Yeah, I have to wait like almost 6 years to go on the podium back again. And I'd like to thank everyone back home. It's really emotional for me, and just thank you to all my supporters for all the up and down, and it's just amazing. Thank you very much.
And to dig in like that over the closing 100 meters and guarantee that silver was a powerful finish.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it that I'm still there. I struggled the last few years, and it was amazing to keep up with the guys and just to go all out. That's what I love the most, and of course there's difficult times, but that's what we train for every day, and just really thankful for my family, for everyone who supports me. Thank you so much.
Congratulations, enjoy that podium.
Thank you so much.
Well, you can see what it means to Florin Savisberg, the second place in the Swiss National Sprint Championships this year. But he has a silver medal in a World Cup race, and well deserved as well.
Yeah, he said he worked for 6 years to get this World Cup podium. Everyone, you train so hard, and not everyone, managed to get it together and get up in the limelight. So when that happens, it's just incredible. So well done.
So let's round off the podium. Let's go and hear from the third place athlete, the ITU athlete at the moment, Felix Duchamp, who's with Doug.
Felix Duchamp, bronze here in Lima, the penultimate World Cup of the year, and an incredible performance.
Yeah, I'm really happy. I've had a pretty tough year. Beginning of the season was really hard. Got better in August and September, but I was still looking for that World Cup good result. And it came today, so I'm really happy, yeah.
Over that run, the pace was obviously going for it. Nobody was really dropping off. How were you feeling at that bell?
I was actually not feeling that good the entire race. Like, the swim was pretty rough. I got beaten up quite a few times. And then the bike was also pretty hard for me. I don't know, I was just not in a really good day, but I kept pushing, and I was positioning myself at the end of the group in the run. And yeah, every time someone was dropping, I was like, okay, one more position and you can do it, you can do it. I was always, thinking positive. And yeah, at this last finish, I was trying, but Manuel and Florin were better. So great to them, and I'm really happy with my first World Cup podium of the year, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, at the end of a long, hard year, and one more opportunity for another medal.
Yeah, next week is Santo Domingo. It will be a completely different race, like Olympic distance, and then obviously it's going to be hot and humid. But yeah, I feel ready. I've trained really well in October, so let's see what I can do next week again.
Great race, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So there are now 3 podiums, and there's 1 or 2 of the lower place athletes. One of the Argentinians there just showing his delight at getting across the finishing line. So we have the 2 podiums, the one for the women's and the one for the men's race to come in just a few moments. Stay with us and we'll bring you those podiums in just a few minutes' time. Well, welcome back to the prize ceremony for the penultimate ITU World Cup race of the year. And you don't need me to tell you, it's the elite women. Up first, led by the very glamorous figure of Jela Stratova. I think she's certainly freshened up since the race a couple of hours ago. But a great race. Third place, Elizabeth Bravo from Ecuador. In fact, the second and third both had to come out a few aches and pains in the closing stages of that race.
I was tight. That was a very, very strong finish.
So Yulia Yelestratova from the Ukraine in second place. But for the second week running, it's Ayueda that tops the podium, having finished second in Tongyong.
Yeah, what a shape she hit now, which she's in incredible form. Her running is just, you know, a level up from all the other girls on the circuit right now.
Yeah, there really was no stopping her. She's running with a great deal of confidence at the moment. So 2 wins in a row for her. She's still got one more race to come, of course, in Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic next week.
And it's the third week in a row she's on the podium.
It's not bad. It's not a bad end to the season, is
It's
it?
a nice habit to have.
And 4 World Cup wins this year as well, which is also pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's great. From having been a season with a few injuries and, you know, maybe not what she wanted to have, looking back now, you know, with in mind that she's having one more race to go, she's had an incredible season.
So the bronze medal for Elizabeth Bravo. And the obligatory bunch of flowers as well. And of course, still one more race to go. As I say, what's the bet, or what is the thinking that she might be able to win 3 in a row? We're back to the Olympic distance next week in Santo Domingo. That was what she won last week in Miyazaki.
It's a hot and humid race in Santo Domingo, which she likes very much. So I would say it's right down her alley.
Well, she's certainly going to take some stopping. And if she comes out of the water in that league group, beware, because she's in very, very good form at the moment. Great work as well from Yulia Yelestratova. Had a few stomach cramps coming down the final few meters, but managed to stave off the pain and get across that finishing line with a silver medal. But again, it's that lovely smile of Ayueda that graces the top of the podium once again for the second week running. Fantastic performance from her, sprint finish, and she held off that challenge perfectly to take the gold medal. And once again, we'll hear the Japanese national anthem.
She won the races in slightly different manners. All the 3 times running 2 up, running by herself, and now running in a sprint finish.
Well, it's always nice to hear your national anthem. And it's always nice to have a celebration photo as well. So there are our 3 women. Ayueda the gold, Yulia Yelestratova with the silver, and Elizabeth Bravo from Ecuador taking the bronze medal. And very well deserved.
Very much so. So I think I can go and enjoy some local cuisine. The world famous local cuisine.
We did say that there's a bit of a gastronomical capital of the Americas here in Peru, so I'm sure they can afford themselves a little bit of a treat this evening before heading off to Santo Domingo and preparations for next week's race. Pretty certain Santo Domingo's on the same time difference as well, so even though it's a little bit of a journey, they won't lose any hours in terms of time difference. But don't forget, a lot of these, well, some of these athletes traveled halfway around the world from Miyazaki last week. So that's a big chunk of jet lag, but of course they're all managed particularly well in terms of diet and sleep and all that kind of stuff.
Sometimes just makes you sleep like a dead elephant at night, which can be really nice.
I'm sure she'll sleep well tonight, Ayueda. Time for a quick selfie as well before the men come in to take the podium. How much is it, is there a sort of typical time an athlete will possibly take off at the end of a season before they start training and preparing for the next campaign?
Yeah, well, I would say November is one of these typical months. October, November. But if you need to race now and you need to get some points, then you have to just postpone it a little bit. So these athletes probably take, later parts of November, early December for some downtime and see your family and friends and do something that you don't have time to do when you're a professional athlete. Maybe even, put on a few kilos and watch some more Netflix series.
So here comes the men's presentation. Another fantastic race. It was a race that was run to perfection by our race winner, Manuel Messias. Women just making their way away.
Yeah, the women had a full hour and a half to get ready for the presentation.
Yeah, the men not so much.
No.
Literally just finished a few moments ago, so they will be with us in a sec. And so a lot of these athletes who've made the journey here, there's confirmation of the women's result. Ayueda top, Yellow in third, Bravo in third. Andrea Hewitt, sixth place. Good result for her as she tries to get back on the scene to make the Olympics next year. Biaggioli from Argentina had a good week last week as well. She managed to make it into the top 10. Elena Danilova from Russia also into the top 10. Sophie Chase from the USA was involved in the leaders for a while, but just fell away, as did Cecilia Perez late on in the women's race.
It wasn't the day of America today, the USA. They just missed out on all three places, basically, both in the men's and the women's race. But a nice spread on the podium between Japan, Ukraine, and Ecuador.
Absolutely. But congratulations, I say, once again to Ayueda for a fantastic performance. Here are a few of the highlights of her performance.
She actually knocked her sign off.
No penalty for that, fortunately. No. That's a strong finish. You could see that the run behind her. We were a bit unsure who got second place in the end, but Yellow just held on to hold off Bravo to take the silver, but no doubting our gold medal winner, Ayueda, once again with the gold. And now on to the men's, who finished just a few moments ago. Felix Deschamps from the ITU taking the bronze medal. Florin Savisberg, one of a number of Savisbergs, as we've already established. A very emotional Savisberg as well when he did his interview as well, taking the second place. But the man who took the silver here in the Pan Am Games just a few months ago, Manuel Messias, going one better with the gold after what was a brilliantly run final few meters.
Yeah, it was beautiful. That injection of pace at just the right time.
Yeah, once he kicked, no one was going with him. Great race as well for Deschamps, who's had a good end to the year in some of the minor races, but now getting himself on a World Cup podium. So then in the process of changing his nationality to Romanian. So Savisberg thanking his supporters and his family and everybody that helps him along the way to get to this stage. Very nice moment for him. And Manuel Messias, as they stood here just a few months ago and took silver behind Crisanto Gralias from Mexico. And now he has a gold medal of his own here in Lima. So most of these athletes, while they're here, will be racing next week. It'll be a very similar field, so it'll be interesting to see how they cope with the Olympic distance in, as we said, it's probably hotter and humid, more humid conditions than we've had here this week.
Yeah, it definitely suits some athletes better than others, but they will have some days to prepare and get ready and test the course and get acclimatized to the heat and also get the travel out of the legs.
So here's the Brazilian national anthem. Well, there we go. That was a slightly longer version of the Brazilian national anthem we were expecting. I think Messias was slightly taken by that as well. But great to hear the national anthem, of course, whatever your sport, whatever you do, to hear your national anthem played, particularly when you're a winner, is always a great honour. So Savisberg with the silver and Deschamps with the bronze. And one final tradition, of course, the women, I'm sure, will come back in for the champagne celebrations. Off with the running shoes. You don't want to get champagne on those high-tech running shoes these days.
No, it's going to be smelly and sticky.
Yeah. So we just wait for the champagne. There is a separate presentation party for the champagne as well. So
are they going to be able to fit on that third step with two athletes?
I'm not sure, actually. I think they might have to stand on the side of them this time, but well, I'll certainly have a go. Certainly the second and third place podiums are quite small.
They're not too large, the athletes.
Well, you are just getting used to champagne over the last few weeks.
So the race of the champagne is going to break it first.
Well, there we go. It's Savisberg who manages to get the lid off his first. Everybody else still struggling a bit at the moment. You think Evaluator would be used to this after the last couple of weeks. There we go. Now they can enjoy themselves. I'm sure they'll celebrate with a quick
brother is still struggling.
swig of champagne as well. Just before we go, Lisa, a quick summary of the two races as you saw them.
Well, they were fast and furious like we expected them. Both came down to the run and a sprint finish in both of them. Exciting to watch. I'm sure it was hard for the athletes to play it out.
Absolutely. So the penultimate race done and dusted. We've got one more race to come for you next week in Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic. Join us for that if you can next Sunday at around about the same sort of times. Hopefully you'll join us for what should be a cracking end to the season. From Lisa Norden and from myself, Mark Tompkins. Till the next time, it's bye from us all.